Have you ever seen someone so quiet, so ordinary, that you almost forget they're even there? And then one day, when everything falls apart, that same person turns out to be the only reason anyone survives? This is that story. The story of a nurse they once dismissed as too soft, but in the chaos of war, she became a legend. The field hospital was suffocating, the smell of blood mixed with smoke. One stretcher after another rolled through the doors, soldiers groaning, crying, screaming, and in the middle of that chaos moved a woman, a small brown-haired nurse, her face pale with exhaustion, but her hands never stopped, stitching, bandaging, saving life after life. For 18 straight hours, she didn't rest. Dozens of patients, not one single break, and when her knees finally gave way, when she almost collapsed, a Marine stepped forward. He looked at her, stood at attention, and with tears in his eyes, gave her the highest honor a soldier can give. He saluted. Ramadi Medic. The room went silent, and for the first time they realized who she really was. But wait, let's go back. Because before that night of chaos, Clara Jameson was invisible. She was just a nurse. Quiet. Too quiet. At 29 years old, barely 5'4", she blended into the sterile corridors like a shadow. Doctors whispered about her. She's soft. She won't last when the real pressure hits. She's too quiet. She doesn't even speak up in meetings. Even the young nurses doubted her. She can't handle stress. She'll break when things get bad. And while they gossiped, Clara sat alone, eating her sandwich, reading her medical journal. To them, she was unremarkable, forgettable, the kind of person you pass every day and never notice. But what they didn't know was that every morning, Clara arrived 30 minutes early. Quietly, she checked on the night shift patients. She replaced wilted flowers, adjusted pillows, filled empty water pitchers. When Private Johnson's mother called from 3 time zones away, terrified about her son, Clara spent her entire lunch break on the phone, calmly explaining his treatment, his recovery. When Dr. Richardson tore his lab coat, Clara noticed. She said nothing. The next morning, the coat was neatly repaired, stitched so perfectly no one could even see the rip. He never knew who fixed it. You see, Clara had a gift. She appeared when she was needed most. When Sergeant Kelly woke up screaming from nightmares about the explosion that nearly killed him, Clara was there, with warm tea, with a calm voice that quieted his demons. When a young recruit broke down, crying over the girlfriend he left behind, Clara didn't judge, she listened. Then she helped him write a letter. Janet, the senior orderly, watched her closely. And one night she said, "I've been watching her. She treats every small wound like it's the most important thing in the world. Every stitch, every scar she sews like she's holding a person's soul together, like she's done this before. Somewhere important." And Janet was right, because deep in Clara's pocket, hidden from everyone, was a piece of faded fabric, a blood-stained bandage brown with age. Sometimes, in quiet moments, she touched it, as if it gave her strength. That bandage came from Ramadi, a place of fire, of chaos, of war. But Clara never spoke of Ramadi. She never told anyone about the soldiers she had saved, or the nickname they had given her. A name whispered like a legend. To her colleagues, she was just Clara, just another nurse, just another face in the crowd. They had no idea. They were working beside a ghost from one of the most brutal battles of the war. Clara preferred it that way, because heroes, she believed, work best in silence. But the truth doesn't. Stay hidden forever. And one night, when the stretchers rolled in by the dozens, when blood flooded the floors, when even the doctors froze, Clara Jameson finally revealed who she really was, the Ramadi Medic. It was 3:47 a.m. The sound of screeching tires tore through the night, then shouting, running, the metallic clatter of stretchers being unloaded, multiple casualties incoming, all hands to emergency. The loudspeaker crackled, everyone jolted. Wake! But Clara Jameson, she was already moving, gloves on, hair tied back, eyes sharp, because Clara never really slept. Not since Ramadi. The first stretcher rolled in, then another and another, blood everywhere, soldiers crying out in agony, some whispering prayers, others dead silent. The metallic stench of blood mixed with diesel fuel. The walls echoed with screams and orders. Dr. Richardson stood frozen at the trauma bay entrance, pale as a ghost. This is too many. We don't have enough staff. We can't handle this. Dr. Martinez backed away. We need backup. Transfer them to another facility. This is beyond our capacity. The room was spinning into chaos. Fear was taking over. That's when Clara stepped forward. Her voice was steady, quiet, but it cut through the panic like steel. No, we handle this, now. Her eyes scanned the wounded, her voice firm, commanding. Red tags, Trauma Bay 1. Yellow tags, hold here for triage. Green tags, waiting area. If you can walk, sit against the wall. The soldier's eyes followed her, desperate, trusting. Dr. Richardson grabbed her arm. Nurse Jameson, you can't just make decisions like this. We need to follow protocol. Clara's eyes flashed. For a moment, something dangerous stirred inside her. Protocol doesn't save lives when you're drowning in casualties, she said. She pulled her arm free and stepped deeper into the chaos. Her hands were unshakable. Pressure here. Tourniquet. There. 2 units of O negative. Stat. She moved like a machine, but it wasn't just skill, it was instinct, the kind only forged in war. Young Dr. Peters stared at her, bewildered. Who gave you the authority to... Clara didn't even look up. The dying gave me authority, unless you want to explain to his wife why we let him die while you argued about paperwork. Silence. Even the doctors froze, because in that moment, they saw it. She wasn't just a nurse. She was a soldier on a different battlefield. Clara reached into her pocket. That faded bandage. She wrapped it tight around her wrist, like a talisman. Her past was alive again, every stitch, every scar, every soldier. It was all here in this room. Get me sutures in room 3. Apply pressure on his chest wound. Someone check vitals on the sergeant, 3rd bed from the left. Orders flew from her mouth like bullets. Precise, sharp, undeniable. Dr. Richardson tried again. Nurse Jameson, you're going to burn out. You've been at this for hours. Take her break before you collapse. Clara shook her head, sweat dripping down her face. Look around you, every minute wasted. Is someone's son, someone's father, someone's brother bleeding out? We don't have time for breaks. She knelt beside a young Marine, barely 19, his leg mangled, his face pale. Stay with me, Marine. What's your name? Thompson, he whispered, trembling. Am I going to die? Clara leaned close, voice steady. Not on my watch. Her hands moved fast. IV line, pain meds, stabilizing the wound. Talk to me, Thompson. Tell me about home. The boy's tears mixed with blood. But he kept talking, and Clara kept him alive. The staff began whispering. Dr. Martinez pulled Janet aside. Have you seen this? She's moving like she's done this exact thing 100 times. Janet's voice trembled. Look at her hands. No shaking. Look at her eyes. She's not just seeing patients, she's seeing a battlefield. Hours passed. Clara didn't stop. Not once. When a young nurse panicked, Clara steadied her. When supplies ran low, Clara improvised. Every second, she was everywhere at once. It wasn't medicine, it was survival. It was war. And Clara was winning. By the 12th hour, then the 15th, she was still standing. Her scrubs soaked in blood that wasn't hers. Her hands trembling, but never stopping. 32 lives saved. And counting. No one knew who she really was. Not yet. But soon. They would. The legend of Ramadi Medic was about to return. Hour 12. Hour 15. Still, Clara didn't stop. Her scrubs were drenched. Sweat mixed with blood. Her hands, once steady as stone, now trembled with fatigue. But they never stopped. Moving. Suture after suture. Bandage after bandage. Life after life. She was no longer just a nurse. She was a force of nature. Dr. Richardson could barely believe it. 18 hours straight, Clara. Please, take a break. You'll collapse. But his voice no longer carried authority. He had seen what she could do. He knew. Without her, half these soldiers would already be dead. And still Clara shook her head, her voice calm but firm. "Every second matters. Every life matters. I'll rest when they can." Then came the breaking point. Dr. Peters, the young doctor, collapsed from exhaustion. His patient, a soldier with severe internal bleeding, was crashing. "Flatline," the heart monitor screamed. Everyone froze, everyone except Clara. She threw herself over the soldier, her small frame pressing down with chest compressions. Come on, stay with me. Your fight isn't over yet." For a moment it seemed hopeless, then a blip, another, a rhythm. The soldier's heart was beating again. The room erupted, not with cheers, but with renewed strength, because they had seen it now. Clara wasn't ordinary. She was extraordinary, but her body was paying the price. Her vision blurred, her back screamed in pain. Her legs felt like concrete, still. She moved, patient after patient, hour after hour. She touched the faded Ramadi bandage around her wrist, her anchor, her reminder. Other nights, other soldiers, other battles. Moments when giving up was never an option. At 9:43 p.m., nearly 18 hours since the first convoy arrived, Clara finished suturing her last patient, a boy, barely 18, too young to shave, too young to die. Her knees buckled. She caught herself against a metal table. Her chest heaved, her body shook. The world around her spun, and that's when she felt it, the presence behind her. She turned. A Marine stood tall, older than the wounded boys, grey at the temples, eyes heavy with memory. He looked at her wrist, at the faded, blood-stained bandage, and something shifted in his face, recognition. He straightened his posture, raised his hand, and in a sharp, perfect motion, he saluted. "Ramadi Medic." The words cracked through the room like thunder. Silence. Every head turned. Even the wounded stopped whispering. Machines beeped softly in the background, but the air was still. Clara froze, her exhausted mind spinning. She hadn't heard that name in 3 years. That name belonged to another life, a battlefield she had buried. But here it was, alive again. "Doctor." Richardson whispered, confused. "What's—" "Ramadi Medic." The Marine never broke his gaze. "Ma'am, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. I was there. Ramadi, 2019. You saved my squad leader. You saved dozens of us." His voice shook. "For 6 months. Whenever casualties hit hard, whenever it seemed hopeless, there was always this nurse. No name, no glory, just courage. We called her the Ramadi Medic." The staff looked around, stunned. Janet covered her mouth, tears in her eyes. The younger doctors looked ashamed. They had doubted her, dismissed her, ignored her, and now they realized the quiet woman they overlooked every single day was a legend. Rodriguez kept his salute. "You made it home, ma'am, because of you. We all did. Fathers, husbands, sons. Families exist because of you." Clara's voice was barely a whisper. "Rodriguez, you made it home." "Yes, ma'am. Because of you." The room was silent. Every soldier, every doctor, every nurse looked at Clara like they were seeing a ghost made flesh, the ghost of Ramadi, the medic who saved lives when no one else could, and for the first time. The shift wasn't over. The wounded still needed care. But something had changed. The air in that room felt different. Every person there had seen the truth. The nurse they had overlooked was no ordinary nurse. She was the Ramadi Medic, doctor. Peters, the young doctor who once questioned her authority, stepped back in shame. I had no idea," he whispered. Janet, the senior orderly, spoke softly. She never said anything, never bragged, never claimed credit, because real heroes don't. Rodriguez lowered his salute, but his voice carried across the room. "Heroes don't announce themselves. They just show up when you need them the most." Clara said nothing. She just stood there exhausted, her scrubs soaked with blood and sweat. She didn't need their recognition. She had done her job. By 11:15 p.m., the last patient was stabilized. The beeping of machines softened into steady rhythms. The cries of pain grew quiet. The storm had passed. Clara removed her gloves, walked to the steel sink and began washing her hands. The water ran pink, then clear. It was a ritual she had done 1,000 times. But tonight every movement felt heavier. She sat down on a cold metal chair. Finally, her body collapsed into silence. No reporters, no cameras, no applause, just Clara, a chair, and the quiet hum of machines keeping people alive. Dr. Richardson approached slowly, like a man approaching a shrine. His arrogance was gone. "Clara, I owe you an apology. We all do." Her tired eyes lifted. "No apology needed. We all did our jobs." Dr. Martinez shook his head. "No, what you did tonight wasn't just a job. It was something else entirely." One by one, the young nurses gathered, but not with whispers of doubt anymore. Now, with respect, with questions. "How do you keep going for 18 hours straight?" asked Sarah, a new graduate. Clara's answer was simple. "You don't think about the hours. You don't think about being tired. You think about the one person in front of you. Just that one person. And then the next, and then the next." Another nurse asked, "But how did you know what to do? You moved like you've lived this exact nightmare before." Clara touched the faded Ramadi bandage on her wrist. "I have, many times. In places where the wrong choice meant someone's child never came home." The soldiers noticed too. Private Thompson, the 19-year-old whose leg she had saved, limped to her desk. He placed a small wilted flower on it, pulled from the hospital garden. "Ma'am, we're alive because of you. Ramadi will never forget." Corporal Williams, bandaged across his chest, left a note. "You gave me a second chance to see my daughter grow up. Someday I'll tell her about you." One by one they came, not with medals or speeches, but with small gestures. A hand squeeze, a whispered, "Thank you." A look that said what words could never hold. When her shift finally ended, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez found her. "Ma'am, permission to speak freely?" She nodded. "What you did tonight, what you did in Ramadi. There are men alive all over. The world because of you. Husbands, fathers, sons, families that wouldn't exist without you." Clara rose slowly, every muscle in her body protesting. "Rodriguez, can I tell you something?" "Yes, ma'am." "The real heroes aren't the ones who get remembered. The real heroes are the ones who keep showing up, day after day, until there's nobody left to save." She unwrapped the faded Ramadi bandage, looked at it one last time, then carefully tucked it back into her pocket. Tomorrow she would tie her hair into a simple ponytail, put on fresh scrubs, and blend into the background again, because that's what true heroes do. They save lives, and then they disappear, quietly, into the ordinary world. The world doesn't always notice its heroes, but heroes don't need to be noticed. They just need to be ready.